Cheers.
What's up?
What have you been working on?
This week, or when this episode goes live, I'm going to be elbow deep renovating the renovation that I already did once. Kind of taking a 2.0 crack at the single bedroom in the Joshua Tree cabin. Whenever I moved in, I did a quick renovation on it, just got it move-in ready, but I've already kind of taken out the tub, put it in a shower, got distracted last week building a bunch of lounge chairs to stain the color acorn, but I'm back on that renovation now.
I thought you wanted to get out of the renovations and get back to furniture building.
I just can't help it, man. It was one of those things where necessity kind of spurred it because the shower had cracked in the bottom. The whole insert was fiberglass, and I'm sure from the 50s when the house was built. And so I didn't even plan on starting a renovation, but it was one of the things where I'm taking out the tub taking out the toilet to get to the shower, then realizing I got to take out the vanity to get the shower out the door. And by this point, I've got an empty bathroom. I might as well go ahead and skim coat it to match the rest of the house and, build a custom vanity. I'm putting in a smart toilet with a bidet, kind of like an Asian toilet, what everyone thinks of as like the classic Japanese toilet.
What brand you going with?
This one has a very memorable name. It's called Uncle Brown. But they're one of the number one sellers on Amazon. And so it actually has a ton of good reviews, and they reached out to me. So it was a win-win.
Uncle Brown. Dude, I just saw a video of a guy. He made a solid walnut toilet.
Wow. How do you...
And he epoxy coated everything.
Because you got to make it
and it's fully worked. So he made it to carve out like the kind of that U shape or that weird snake thing that keeps you a reservoir of water so you're not smelling sewer gas coming back up.
Right. It creates its own little P-trap.
So he carved it in two pieces, epoxy sealed it all up, and then used epoxy to glue it all together. And he made a working... It's so funny because like people are obviously just being like, you can't do this. Yes. And that's kind of why the video is done so well.
And there is a million legitimate reasons why not to. This is the one time the comments are actually kind of working on solid ground.
But toilets, I've made sinks before. I've never made a toilet. I think the farthest I would go would be urinal. I would make a urinal.
I see where the line is. It makes sense.
Urinal you could make pretty sculptural and cool.
And it's only handling number ones, hopefully. Someone gets a little drunk, says, I did a number 2 in the urinal.
I've been to a bar where I've seen that happen. In college. It was great.
On the walnut toilet, had to second guess myself to make sure I was saying that correct. The inside of the pipes, did he kind of line that with epoxy?
Yeah.
And that's kind of something that seems a little bit key, because if you put it together, but there's still wood grain that's not sealed or encapsulated, no shot. You're going to start seeing stains leaching from the inside out.
And he butcher blocked it up and then power carved it out.
That's pretty cool. I'd have to check that out. Yeah.
Shout out to that guy.
Nice.
Wood toilet.
Well,
now, I've seen wood toilet seats.
Of course. That's kind of classic 70s.
Yeah, that feels a little weird. The weirdest part is when they did the shag carpeting over the lid.
I'm glad you said that, man. Yeah. Whoever thought carpet in the bathroom toilet department? It's a bad idea. You'd get the same shag toilet seat cover with the foot thing underneath. Mm-hmm. It was classic.
So to replace the shower, are you going tile or are you using a different fiberglass insert or...
I went with this really cool insert. So I did a classic Delta 500 deep soak tub. It's kind of like the best bang for your buck. A ton of people use them. But for the walls is where I went crazy. They've got this system called Next Tile. And it's a prefab plastic shower surround. And it's sold by a couple different brands. They're licensing it under a couple of different brands. And this isn't a brand deal or anything. But what they did is they made a nice subway tile pre-mold. Mm-hmm. They at least made it to where the subway tiles are a little bit oversized and the grout lines are very, very thin. Mm. So it kind of avoids a little bit of that cheesy look you can get from that pre-molded look. It looks about as good as you can get from that. But what they did is they put in a giant niche that looks built in for storing bottles and all your soap and stuff along the entire back wall, the long wall of the shower. And the way they accommodated it without making you alter any of the framing is from the tub on the bottom to that niche. It's funny, that word. It just angles out at like 3 degrees to where by the time it gets halfway up the wall, there's enough room for a ledge, a whole built-in thing where it looks like way more custom than what you're paying for and the amount of time it takes to put in.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of like luxury builder grade still.
Gotcha. And are you going to do individual videos for like the vanity and for these things, or is the whole thing going to be one bathroom remodel?
I'll do a big start to end. It seems like now people want to see a good like hour-long renovation video of a full bathroom, kind of like take the time to really talk about what you're doing and show it. But at the same time, I really want to go in depth and build a cool custom vanity, stuff like that. And so those will have their own individual videos. I plan on experimenting and trying to make my own terrazzo for the countertop. Terrazzo. It's been something I've talked about a million times. And, I found a cool clip that really got me inspired where I saw somebody that was doing it with some tools they had fabricated, but all it used was angle grinders, the diamond discs that you would use to hone concrete or stone like you have been. Mm-hmm. They just built it to where there was a positive stop to where it was free floating up and down, but it just couldn't go past a certain point. So even though they started with an uneven surface, they were like hand working it, but it could just never hit. It just had a 0 stop on it.
For terrazzo, would you use like glass in it? Is terrazzo glass or is it just stone? Or
I think it can be anything, right? It's that idea of mixing almost like waste aggregate into concrete to make like your hard floor. You just grind it down smooth and reveal the aggregate. So you can use stone, like classic concrete terrazzo still looks neat. I see it in coffee shops sometimes.
Yeah.
Like you'll see a bar top that's been honed down to where you can still see all the pebbles now. So that looks cool. But my favorite is when people use really cool colored marble chunks.
Right.
Sometimes they'll put a little pigment into the concrete even. So you'll get this like soft orange colored concrete with some really rich brown tones and maybe even some really colorful orange marbles mixed in. Marble, not marbles.
Well, it's funny because like the first terrazzo I saw was, this is because like the 80s and 90s, they were using a lot of like recycled glass.
Right. That makes sense.
Like had the kind of a translucence to some of where the glass aggregate was showing.
And in some of them, it catches light in a cool way.
And I was thinking too, because I've been watching videos on, bro, did you know that you can microwave glass and melt it in a regular microwave?
Weirdly, I saw a TikTok where it was like the most redneck guy doing it. Was it the same with you?
No, this was like a lady.
It seemed legit.
Yeah.
Okay, because this sketched me out. Does it seem legit?
This was the opposite of a redneck lady. She was a very like artsy, crafty lady.
That makes me more comfortable because if he's willing to do it, that doesn't mean I'm willing to do it.
I don't. Obviously, this is a movement that's spanning all walks of life. But you can. Obviously, microwaves are super powerful. Can get stuff super hot. So you get these like plaster kilns that go in it. And you can't do like huge amounts of glass, like small little pieces. And obviously with glass, once you melt it together, if you have it too big, as it cools down, it'll break.
Wow. Okay.
So when like a guy like Western Lambert does a lot of cool stuff with like big glass sculptures, he has to spend days slowly lowering the temperature on the kiln so it doesn't cool too fast.
Interesting.
But I was thinking, it was like, now that I can like melt broken up glass into like little droplets and little like blobby kind of lava shapes.
Yeah.
It would be very conducive for terrazzo as like totally inserts.
Yeah. And you would break away from having like small pieces that you would chip away from bottles. You're only going to get a certain size out of that. You're going to get stuck with a minimum size. But with that, you can get some big pieces of glass. They could really shimmer. Might look really cool. And it took me a minute to remember what the guy was doing. He was taking bottles down, like he would melt down a bottle and then chip it into like a arrowhead, like a Native American.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, but a blue one.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, he was a little rednecked.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where I'm like, I get it. It's safe to him, but if it's safe to her too, great. That makes me feel more comfortable.
All right. We may be melting glass in one of the future Maker Ranch episodes. It's kind of like a good little like just demo segment.
I watched your episode 6 today. You're kind of finding the format with these. I like it. You're experimenting and finding what the audience like and what you like making, it seems like. But they've got this cool vibe of like a podcast and a show. It's like a pod show.
Yeah, we were thinking about that too for Modern Maker podcast too. And again, your suggestions as the audience are always welcome here. Show's ultimately for you. So we kind of been talking about this a lot, like in bringing back the pod. Obviously, it's based on sort of conversations, us catching up, giving us a reason to drink.
Cheers.
But now that we're going with lav mics, it actually isn't just like a simple production decision. It actually frees us up to be moving around, doing stuff while we're doing. So if there's certain things that you think would be a fun demo or more of that could involve sort of turning this from just a pod into sort of a talk show with sort of, I mean, it could even be like a Good Morning America kind of segment.
Yeah. Like Rachel Ray, you're saying?
We're cooking up some spaghetti.
Yo, cooking with power tools.
Yeah.
The first thing that came to my head, I'm like, man, if nothing else, if you're behind on a project, you can always put on some clear coat and do a podcast at the same time.
Well, that was so funny. There's like one episode that we did recently where you like mentioned, you brought up, you must have been hungry because you brought up spaghetti like 6 times.
Wow. Oh,
like,
I remember that.
You just kept saying like, like spaghetti.
It's the sauce. It's so good.
We'll have a terrazzo and spaghetti, the Italian episode.
Right. Whenever I was thinking about terrazzo too, I've seen people make a very DIY version where they don't have to do too many power tools, break up tile, and then pour kind of grout in between all the tiles. You can get a semi-flat surface. It's kind of more like a mosaic thing than proper terrazzo. If you did something like that and really made it look nice, you could epoxy that, and then it would be super flat.
Yeah.
Even if it was hyper thin, like of a layer.
Because with terrazzo, the challenge is, at a DIY scale, the challenge seems like it would be in the finish grind.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's about like, you mix up a bunch of cool ingredients and then you grind it to reveal all of them preserved. You're almost like making a colorful fossil and then slicing through the top. But
totally.
But grinding through hard material is the dirty, dusty, time-consuming part.
And then the concept of honing it to this perfect flat is a little scary.
Yeah. No, I'm interested to see it. I think it almost like, I would almost do like just a DIY terrazzo video before you do the vanity, right? Just because it's like, once you commit to the vanity, that's a big project. There's technical things, bunch of stuff.
There's enough meat there itself.
Also, are you going to do the sink as like part of the terrazzo, or is it sink separate and the terrazzo is just a slab?
I was thinking about doing an undermount sink, so there's just a cutout in the terrazzo.
Right. Yeah, because like if you are going to like hand grind it, here's the other thing. For a bathroom sink, how flat do the surfaces around the sink really need to be? Not
like
that flat.
Medium. Right.
So you could do a hand angle ground top where you carve, where you kind of mold the sink out.
Mm-hmm.
But like I did for my bathroom, it was all one slab of concrete and the sink is built into it.
Yeah.
So it isn't a separate material for the countertop than for the sink. That's why I would think sort of doing the terrazzo experiment first, where you try it once for like surface and once for volume.
Yeah.
Because if you can get the volume right, and there's no reason why, like a bathroom sink doesn't need to be that deep.
Mm-hmm.
We're not doing any of that stuff where we're like putting ice cubes in it and soaking our face in our, like a bathroom sink only needs to be a few inches deep.
Yeah.
So it could just be like a slope depression.
Yeah, I remember watching like an architectural digest of like Kim and Kanye's house, and their whole like designy thing was it was like basically flat, vanities to where you can't tell where the sink starts and where the countertop begins.
And because it's Kanye and their terrazzo, there's little swastikas everywhere.
No, it was pure concrete, and there were about 4 swastikas.
Yeah.
He's back though. He apologized for all of it. Yeah. So I think that goes away. Is that how it goes away? I don't know.
Yeah, something like that.
I listened to a couple songs. It has good beats. I, on purpose, didn't pay too much attention to the lyrics, no value judgment on the music at all. I'm kidding.
I just find him like needy for attention and then just like unpleasant.
Yeah. But a lot of people that make cool stuff have like a license to do that, but you got to make the really cool stuff. And it's been a second since Kanye's made an album that's a game changer. So people grow a little tired of it if you're not changing the game along with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My challenge lately, it's like I had this whole plan for the whole month, right? It's like, okay, new month, got my stuff done for the last month. I haven't been able to get started on any of the project. I've just been like, you know how like little things just come up, but they take 2 days?
For sure.
And now I'm like, crap, we're like halfway through the month. And like, I want to get onto the big stump carving dining table. And I need to start this commission for this museum in LA. And like, I haven't even started on them because I've been like, I got to ship out a project, one of my rock projects. So I had to build like crates for that. That takes like half a day.
Yep.
I did learn how to use a foam cutter.
Ooh, the hot wire.
Ryobi makes a foam cutter now.
Shout out to him for it.
That used to be like something where you have to like do something really sketchy where you put like the alligator clips on like a car battery and like a coat hanger. You're sitting there not knowing if you're going to get shocked. Looks like a torture device out of like Lethal Weapon. But so I cut the foam out so I could like perfectly pack the rocks in. And then I like built crates and I just feel like, do you ever have that where it's just like a bunch of things that are responsibilities just keep eating up like a day and a half of time, day and a half of time. Yeah. And then the next thing you know, you're like way behind schedule for the month.
Yeah, it happens all the time. And it's one of those where you're like, the first project's supposed to be done already. But I think you just keep adapting. Like you got a day like today, it looks great, but surprisingly windy out there. If you tried to build anything, you would blow over. And so sometimes it's inconveniences where it's like, man, I thought it would take a day to build this, but I didn't think about the crates on top of it, or the weather getting in the way too. There's a lot of factors. I think the main thing is just to always be productive if you can't do the main thing you're doing. So if you're losing a day on this, be gaining a day on something else.
Yeah, and I did get the moonpad video out. That's my last video that I published. Yeah. And that edit, it took a one. I
think it was worth it.
I think it's the longest project video I've ever done.
20 minutes, maybe 25, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's about 25.
Dude, I really like the way you went with the voiceover on it. There's certain content creators like Chris Salamone who can really talk about the why of the project. And sometimes a couple minutes go by and they haven't talked about the what they're doing, you know? But I think that project was a cool combination of the voiceover that you put on. And then it was just fun watching that moonpad come together. And so as you're talking, something interesting is happening. They're working in tandem together really well.
So my favorite part of it was like watching the edit, like brought back like PTSD of just how much stupid work it was.
Like the mixing a couple hundred bags of concrete.
Bro, we mixed over 250-pound bags by hand. Because it's like far out in the middle of nowhere. And it's like the farther out you build something, the farther you are from like the infrastructural support of like garden hoses can reach and you can run extension cords. I was like watching the draft with Jessie and she was just like, that was so much work.
It's like you almost forgot about it until you look back.
Yeah. So it was interesting, right? Because like once you go longer, like I feel like with like 10 minutes, if the project edited down to just like the important parts is around 10 minutes, you can kind of get away with, I did this, then I did this, especially if the project is interesting.
Yeah, a couple of technical things of how you got this done.
Once you go longer than that, I think that's where narrative becomes a little bit more important and you need some like breaks and some changes of speed.
Yeah, every once in a while I feel that way watching my own content where I'll watch a video a few months removed and I'll be like, Mike, take a breath, you know, because even in a 15, 20-minute video, if you're cutting it for time, really trying to make it dense to where you're not wasting the audience time, if you're talking about what you're doing and you're really trying to be thorough, boy, it can be a little long-winded. But the freedom of just talking about the why behind what you were doing, and you're not necessarily rushing to say these 3 steps while the 3 steps are happening, you kind of have a more relaxed pace. And I think that's maybe what I'm finding where I'm like, Mike, take a breath. Because sometimes I'm like, I got to say this because this is about to happen. And it didn't seem like you were kind of in that mindset at all. And it made for a good, flowy, just chill paced video that I thought was fun.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there's so many. I think it was like the amount of footage to deal with was a lot. And then I was looking, I was like, so much of the footage was just me, Jesse, and Shane carrying sandbags.
But it's like 100 takes of the same thing.
So this is what my takeaway in watching the footage was. This is where I think like robots could do really well. I think we could make robots that fill sandbags.
Like it's simple enough.
It's a simple task. I think we should have a sandbag filling robot.
Is it
that you just like the fire department should have a couple of them?
Yeah.
So if you know, like, okay, we got a hurricane coming.
Oh, you mean like this is actually like not just
disaster preparedness.
Government contracts are great,
right? We need some like we know like the next like Hurricane Katrina's coming.
Sure.
We should deploy the sandbag robots, and they like go around on trucks. They drop them off.
Yeah.
They fill a bunch of sandbags for people because filling sandbags is exhausting. I got that little scooper. I tried so many of the scoopers.
Oh, right. Like there's got to be a hack. There's got to be a way to do it.
There's some pretty good ones, right? But you need the long sandbags because what you do is you like, it's like a plastic shovel that like keeps the bag open.
Yeah.
And then it has two little handles. And so you have this like bag on this little scooper and you go like this into the sand.
Mm-hmm. But and it comes out the bottom basically.
But if you got them short bags,
yeah,
you go like this and you're lifting up the whole bag.
Right.
So you want a long bag so you have like a little bit of neck to
totally makes sense
to scoop it up. But we filled probably 100 or so sandbags and 200 bags of concrete, one concrete truck.
Had a cool concrete guy. I've had a cool concrete guy a couple of times.
Hot shot.
Brother, it makes the whole difference. Because he could have stressed you like about time, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like, he could have been like, where do you want me to put this? You can either take it or I'm taking it with me.
Right.
One of those kind of things. Yeah. But you mentioned in the video, he was, kind of interested in what you guys were doing.
Yeah. Shout out to the people in the trades that also are just like still curious about their job. But I do find that like, especially out here, with the unusual projects that I do that involve like, even like that, there's a really good excavator rental company out here in Joshua Tree. Shout out to KK Rents. If you're in the Joshua Tree area and you need to rent an excavator, don't go to Home Depot, go to KK Rents. They deliver it. It's cheaper. They really know their own tools. They're fantastic. They would come out and be like, what are you using this for? I'm like, I got to move this big rock over there. And they're like, all right, well, how much does it weigh? And so they like give like little like advice and they're like, no, you should strap it up this way or versus this way.
Yep.
But like, no, like when there's like people in the trades that are like genuinely curious about like weird stuff that's adjacent to their trade, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's got to help big time. But what was a big takeaway from it? Imagine you take on another project like that. Not like a 2.0 on the UFO. Ooh, this kind of segues into our topic a little bit.
All right, break down the topic.
Well, our topic, I want to ask this question real quick. If you're going to do anything at scale like this again, like in the middle of the desert, without kind of like full utilities, but you wanted to do a big concrete project, what would you do different aside from a sand robot? Would you like from the beginning put like a water tower thing in? Would that be like a day one thing instead of a day stucco set day?
Well, I started on the follow-up project to the moon pad, and I took the wrong lessons from it.
Uh-oh.
So with the moon pad, we probably overbuilt it a lot. There's a lot of compaction because we didn't want anything to fail. So we over-prepared for the concrete pour and probably put like an extra full week of me and Jesse out there in the dirt. We probably could have gotten away with cutting some corners and shaved a whole week of labor off of our time. We probably over-compacted.
Yeah.
We used more rock than we probably needed to, more sandbags. We probably could have used more just raw dirt and used the excavator just to dump the dirt in, press it down, and move on.
Cool.
But because it was like the first time we had done something at that size, we played it safe. Sometimes these things, you take the wrong takeaway. So you get away with something once, and then you think for the next project. So the next project that we're working on is called the Sky Table. Names are a little bit sus, but whatever, we'll flow with them.
Yeah.
We're in an artsy community. So it's a big 40-foot long concrete dining table with a stainless steel top.
Awesome. Oh, so it'll reflect the sky.
Right. So we had such a great time with Robert, doing the concrete pour. And that was like challenging geometry. I'm like, this is simple geometry. So we built up the formwork and we were pouring this. Basically, it's a 40-foot long, 16-inch wide concrete wall. We already had the footing in. We Tapcon screwed the formwork to the footing. The footing was a 3-foot wide footing.
Cool.
I looked at the literature on the Tapcons. Okay, they can take this much force, did the calculation, pour it all. Literally, the concrete truck is done with the pours. 8 yards of concrete.
That's a lot. Is that one truck or two trucks?
One truck.
Got it.
Truck is pulling away. Concrete, we're just like troweling the top. All of a sudden I hear ding. One screw broke. And I was like, oh no. And then I heard ding, 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 ding.
No.
So one broke. And then there's like a delay. And then another one broke. And then it cascade. Because soon as you lost that first. So it was like we weren't even adding any more weight.
Yeah. It just, each one had to hold a little bit more as the last one went away.
So you know how they say like the straw that broke the camel's back? The straw landed. There was no additional weight putting in. We're just troweling the top. And it was like the truck is like cleaning itself up. And we just hear this ding. And I was just like, and then the whole form just blew apart.
So what do you do in a moment like this?
It was funny. It was one of my, Anthony, who's like my guy that he's on the crew at the hotel, does awesome work for us. Afterwards, he was like, that's the first time I ever heard you like curse at work.
He's like, I lost my cool a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm honest.
That
hurts. Like that is the catastrophic failure.
It was catastrophic failure. Like, it's like, I don't know how many pounds, but it's like probably like 30,000 pounds of mess to clean up. It like, we're getting through it now, but it set us back like 2 weeks.
The cleanup's almost as much work as
more.
Thing.
More.
Because you got to arrange trucks to take it out, basically.
And literally, if it would have lasted, if that one screw would have lasted 45 more minutes, the concrete would have been like congealed enough to where it's not putting so much. So
that's one where you're going to have to do a 2.0 on, which kind of brings me to the show topic. Like, what have you done before? Maybe a video is released on it. Maybe a video never even made it out because it justifies a 2.0.
I think I'll first segment one thing. One of the things that you'll often get as a comment is people saying, you overbuilt that. You used way more than structure than you need to. You used way more rebar than you need to. That's easy to say when you're not the one responsible for cleaning up. And I might have been listening to too many of these comments like, oh, why are you being so careful with these things?
Yeah.
Sometimes like the mistake, like sometimes like, I guess if you're manufacturing, right? Like if I had to make 100 coffee tables and I'm selling each coffee table, I might like experimenting on one to cut corners so that you have efficiencies on the next 100 makes a lot of sense.
Totally. Like build your system, make your jigs.
Even if you totally destroy and waste 3 coffee tables worth of wood, if you save 10% on that, you're going to make a return on pushing the red line and finding
think how quick you can make the second moon pad.
Right.
Like those compaction things, cool, but the build of the entire jig, like the whole sled system,
right?
That's 2-3 days, that you get to now just copy and paste.
So that's where I'm kind of thinking is like your risk profile shouldn't be the same. Like if you're investing 50% of your net worth, it should be in a very conservative investment.
Got it.
If you're investing 1% of your net worth, you may go for upside that has a high probability of failure.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way I have to look at these things. If I'm doing a project that involves massive amounts of material and time, I need to play it more conservative.
Yeah.
Always play it conservative with safety. We're safety first guys. Big safety guys.
Big time. But it reminds me of the way you're working on the moon pad. I watched the moon pad video like an hour ago, so it's really kind of like I can picture it really well. But one of those things where even before the stucco guys come, you're like, I'm going to spend a few hours grinding this thing. Half of it's to make their job easier. Half of it so they don't judge me too much. But at the end of the day, you just want no hiccups in the process. So you kind of overdo it.
Right.
And then you find out, I don't really need to do any of that. Well, sometimes it's better to kind of do it, but not need to, rather than not do it and wish that you did.
It's why like being locked in on a big project is actually kind of like the most ideal state to be in, because you don't have these like what sucks is when you have a big project, but you know that you still have to do these other smaller projects to make money or to meet deadlines or to do these things, and then it just pulls your attention or focus. It all goes back to the pyramids. When people say we don't know how they built the pyramids, and I'm like, well, I know how they built the pyramid. People back then were really smart.
Sure.
And they were just focused. And all the building materials that they used were stone. So it's like, if all you did was work with one material your whole life, you would be so good at it. Like if all you, like, let's say all you did was plywood projects, you would be so super advanced in plywood.
Sure.
You'd be like counting the laminations. You'd be like, no, this kind does this.
Yeah.
Because we have lots of options and lots of distractions, we're kind of become generalists. But for the real important stuff, we gotta, as they say, lock in.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I hear like a Joe Rogan podcast and it's like, there's no way they could have cut that stone with that material. And it's people I know that have never cut anything with anything.
Yeah.
They've never touched an angle grinder even.
No. Well, it's like,
so I have a hard time being like, this guy, you take a person's word for their word.
Okay.
But you've got to judge a book by a cover. And when you've got nerds that are talking about how materials could never be that symmetrical, or I'm sorry, end product could never be that symmetrical, or those joints could never be created by hand, or that material could never cut that. I'm out of it in the sense that I'm not trying to be the expert, but I can look at them and it makes me question their expertise because I know they've never cut one thing, let alone a piece of wood. You sure have never gone out and cut granite. And they'll be like, no, one time I went to Egypt and they had a tour guide show me stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, cool.
Okay.
You're an expert now.
Here's the simple version of this. Starting a fire with just sticks, where you like spin them and you do the thing to create the friction, right? We know that that's possible.
Sure.
Most people can't do it.
And someone would try really hard and have enough ego to claim that it is impossible.
Now, more people today, if you said, okay, your life depends on it within the next 24 hours, you either light that fire or you die.
Yeah.
More people today are dying than thousands of years ago.
And I don't know if this is what they say about Egypt exactly, right? Imagine they say they couldn't have cut that. If they wanted to cut that, that would have taken 3 days. But couldn't they have just spent 3 days?
Here's the thing. I think that human focus is like the most, it's actually, focus is more powerful than intelligence.
Yes.
Because an intelligent person that's unfocused can be a total show and mess.
Right.
You can take a person
and you're smart enough to really be on that Dunning-Kruger thing.
Right.
Of like validating yourself because you hit a couple fun facts. So you must have it all figured out.
Right. We've all seen that autistic guy that can like draw from memory. He just like they flew him around on the helicopter thing.
New York City skyline.
And he just draws it all perfectly.
We thought of the exact same thing. I love that.
Yeah. So I think that focus is like the most underrated human quality. And it's like this like concentration of whatever amount of intelligence. It's the magnifying glass with the sunlight. Sunlight falls on everything. But if you got a magnifying glass, you can actually like light a fire with a small amount of sunlight, just concentrating it down to one point. And I think like the people that do some of the most amazing things aren't the smartest. They're the most focused. Right? Where they apply their intelligence to one thing. Even think about like early days of us getting started on YouTube. That's like all we did. We'd get up, focus on the project that creates the video. We focus on the edit. We do anything else. And like we were able to do things that like an HGTV show that's unfocused with like way more people, way bigger budget couldn't do.
Yes. Because they had to make like a real heavy commitment, where we could make a light commitment of just, I just spent a couple days messing with this, and I think something cool could come out of this.
Right.
But you're only risking your time, not a whole crew, not a whole budget, not a production thing.
So I'm glad you brought up the Joe Rogan thing, because our boy Andrew Schultz, he recently had on like an antiquities kind of archaeologist.
I thought it was a fun episode.
Great episode.
We were kind of hating on like that type of person,
but it was good. That guy was good.
It was fun, and I liked the way that he wasn't making those claims. Yeah. You know, the guy that's like a little heavy set and he's got like a bald ponytail with no hair on the sides? He's kind of the type of guy that I talk about, where he'll make like such definitive statements, but I know he's never gone outside.
This guy was good because he was totally comfortable saying, well, that part, I don't know.
And I like
this is what I do know. But anyways, they like brought up this idea of like, and also, I get name dropped a couple times in the episode.
I remember.
Which is off.
Nice.
Because like
I shot you a text because I was listening casually. I said, "Hey, shout out on the what did I say? Like philosopher bin." That's what it is.
Every time Rogan does a dumb episode, I call Schultz. I'm like, "You got to do an episode on this," and like, don't be this stupid.
Right. Kind of give a little bit of like tennis back and forth.
Right. And I was like, and they brought up the point that I always make up. It's like, what Steph Curry does is real, but it's also completely unreal. Like the fact that Steph Curry could probably stand at the 3-point line and make, if he was just in practice, make like 90-something% of his 3-point shots. It'd be high 90s.
It'd be to the point where someone would say, 500 years ago, this culture loved basketball so much, their athletes would be able to stand, however far the NBA 3-point line is away and make every single shot. So he could kind of like virtually make every shot.
When something's culturally important, the way basketball is important, and when it's culturally rewarded, you get people that are exceptional to the point where they're not just like 20% better than the average person. They're literally like infinitely better. Like if I stepped at the 3-point line and shot 100 shots, I might make 10.
Maybe
20.
Yeah. And that's like where I'm like, and I'd be happy with it too.
And I bet you me making 10 to 20 would still be above average.
Right. Where
you factor in all age groups and stuff like that.
And that makes me think of, like Aztec or Mayan culture, where they had the ball that they would hit with their hip through the circle on the side of the wall. It truly does seem like that's impossible.
So with basketball,
and there's no way that's the game they were actually playing.
Right.
But the analogy you're making is kind of making it believable that like, no, they probably had guys that figured out how to hit that ball off their hip into the hole on the wall.
Here's the other thing. I don't think Steph Curry in that particular skill is that rare. I think there's a lot of guys that are 5'9", but went to D2 schools. So they're not tall enough or athletic enough to do that. But they can probably just shooting uncontested just as good as Steph Curry.
I get what you're saying.
So what I'm saying is, if your culture's focused on making stuff with rocks, you're going to have people that are as good as Steph Curry with rocks. And you're going to have people as good as that like D2 point guard that's just like kind of undersized and not physically talented.
Yeah.
That's just as good as Steph Curry. The same way that like, have you ever seen people that can take like a charcoal pencil and draw something that's photorealistic?
Totally.
So we know that you can do things super accurately with the human hand.
Yeah, just stand a step away.
Some people are better. Now, if the whole culture is focused on drawing things really well, you're going to get a bunch of awesome drawers.
Yeah. I mean, to go back to Hitler, if everyone sucked at painting, Hitler never would have even been Hitler. He would have been renowned. It's your fault. I didn't do that.
I'm glad we had the first Hitler reference in Modern Maker Podcast. Chris, we're sorry.
Yeah, it's taken a quick downward slope.
Yeah, but maybe if his paintings were,
you get what I'm saying. The logic is sound. Probably a bad analogy to choose.
It's not actually bad. It's just dicey.
I'm trying to dance around it. You're helping me.
In the words of probably one of our greatest intellectuals ever, dicey.
Nice. Wow.
All right. So.
Wait, hang on.
Go for it.
I'm going to hit one for all the conspiracy theorists out there.
Oh, please.
It's not about how did they make the pyramids. It's about why. What were the pyramids for? Because they never found any pharaohs in no pyramids. But the official story of pyramids is that they're there as burial sites for pharaohs.
Okay.
But they find burial sites for pharaohs all over the place.
What is Mount Rushmore for?
So now we're circling it, right? It's grandeur, for one.
What's the Eiffel Tower for?
The same.
What's the Statue of Liberty for?
You know, you would argue the same. But does it have a use? Right. So like Statue of Liberty, you're like, it's kind of like
what's the new White House ballroom for? Don't answer that.
Yo, conspiracy angle. Deep underground military bunkers.
So here's the thing that I think is actually awesome about this.
But no, you got a good point there where like some things are for the sake of it.
Like the moon pad, right? Like this is the part that I think is really, once you meet the basic needs, you have food on the table, roof over the head, what you should do pyramids.
Actually,
pyramids are what you should do.
And in a weird way, I did have a light bulb moment where I've never deeply discussed pyramids much, but I've listened to enough podcasts where you hear other people talk about it. But sometimes you just gotta like look through it and have your own ideas about it.
Right.
Why is the Empire State Building cool? Or when it was built, why was it cool? It was the tallest building. Now, they were able to do that because of steel and skyscrapers, and it was all the thing. But realistically, they just wanted to make the tallest building. And if you didn't have steel to make skyscrapers, if you wanted to make the tallest building, you're obviously going to make a pyramid.
Right.
It could be that deep.
Yes.
In the way that they're like,
shallow.
They're like, why is that building in Dubai cool? Well, it's just the tallest building right now.
Right.
And that's the whole, it's that deep.
This is the thing. It's like I think we put too much agency or too much emphasis on motive. I think this is my favorite part of the moonpad video was the rock throwing party. Because, okay.
A lot of people make a big task doable.
Did you throw rocks in a creek just for fun?
For sure, it's fun. Yeah.
Right? And you like skip them, and then you're like, oh, what's the biggest rock we can throw in, right?
Totally.
There's a part of the human condition where you just like throwing rocks is fun.
Cause and effect.
And then you're like, well, if this is a little bit fun, let's roll a big rock down a hill.
Sure.
I think there's a little bit about the building. It's like the second you have your needs met, meaning like food on the table, roof over the head. Yeah. The minute you have your needs met, you start thinking like, well, what now?
Yeah.
and
it's an unnecessary invention, or it's something like just tossing rocks in a pond.
Now, imagine that, but you have like massive control over a major part of society. And you're in that state. And you're in that state. Like, okay, we conquered all these things. We got this.
All the walls are done.
We squashed that rebellion.
Yeah. And they're like, we got all our guys building this wall, but the wall's done now. What's next?
Big ass pyramid.
Why not?
And you know what? Let's make sure all the corners point this way. Let's make it real smart. Let's get all my smartest people in on my big pyramid.
And I understand the perspective because people will say things like, can you believe it points perfectly north? Dude. But if I'm going to arrange my house, I'm also going to point it perfect north. But so for practical reasons, I think we can all do that. But if I'm making something where I want shadows to play cool or I want something to happen, you can do that all deliberately.
Right.
But it is kind of like arbitrary reasons. It's just for the sake of it, because it looks cool, because north is something. It doesn't necessarily mean because that points to the star where the aliens came from that built it.
One, I think we need to do a future episode where we just talk about the pyramids.
I just got 10 times less of a skeptic because like we thought about it instead of I listened to some guy.
Well, here's the thing. What's more implausible? If you were to take the totality of all the money that's been spent on the production of Marvel movies.
Cool.
Right?
You could accomplish a lot with that.
Right.
Yes.
So if you were to look at, there's probably been like 20 or so Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. They probably average like $100 to $200 million budget. There's been billions of dollars spent to make movies about superheroes that no one actually believes is real. It's not like even, this is how it's like,
you would get the impression that this is
what's changed my whole view of like Greek mythology and these things. Because if it was actually just entertainment for them, it means they didn't really like think they're real, right? Like, but here's the thing that I think will happen. Let's say our civilization gets like wiped out tomorrow, right?
Sure.
And there's like, cave people kind of exist, and it takes like a couple thousand years to get back to the level they're at, and they dig up our things and they find like our old DVDs, and they're like, oh.
Yeah.
So
they're like, ooh.
they, without context, and they're like, they spent all this money on these movies,
this is obviously the most
things
important
around
thing.
these things like Thor and Iron Man and all these things. They would think that we worship them as gods.
It's like
they wouldn't realize that we were just like, nah,
together.
This is just like mainstream entertainment that cool people don't care about. It's like more for like the adult nerds, but like, yeah, it's kind of funny and it's crossover, and the actors are actually really good.
And if you kind of look at it in the US, since we're kind of in the modern age, they've had their waves of popularity and not popularity, but from comic books until today, they've always been there.
They might misinterpret that we worship them
because it's multi-generational.
It's religious
at this point. Yeah.
Like what had a bigger budget, Marvel or the Catholic Church these last like 2 decades?
You have a weird point.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, when we look back at that, they might have just been thinking like, this is just cool. Like, this is just a flex. This is just what we do with like excess money and power.
Yeah. But it is cool in thinking that like, all whatever they're like, oh, the pyramids are free energy and all that, and you're like, okay, well, that's a cool thing to think about. Like, that's cool in the way that like Marvel movies are cool to think about. But if you want to start being like real hard critical, what's more believable?
Right.
Pop culture or everything is different than you think it is?
Pop culture is wild too, because like you heard about like the tulip phenomena when tulips were like super valuable. That was tulips, the flower.
Oh, and indigo is the same because you could dye blue with indigo.
Right. So throughout history, people go crazy around things that are just like culturally derived, that don't actually have like a food and functional necessity.
Yeah.
It's almost like when we look back at history from today, we almost forget that they were capricious, weird, idiosyncratic humans that wanted entertainment.
Yeah.
We just think of like, oh, they were all just like doing what was practical and logical.
And they were so serious about everything that they did that there wasn't any room for the behavior that you're describing.
It's like when people talk about politics, we're in the most divided time ever. I was like, no, we aren't.
Right.
People aren't having duels. Literally in like the Aaron Burr, they were like, sir, you wrote a mean tweet for me. We must have a duel at dawn.
Yeah.
They were actually more unhinged, more chaotic, more emotional.
Yeah.
But we look back, we're like, I think it's because you only look at like the most successful kind of logical people kind of stand out. But like crazy weirdos have always existed.
Yeah. And at different points in time, the crazy weirdos, they've always got a couple of people following them.
Right.
But sometimes they're like, shit's kind of crazy. And so they have a lot of people like with them.
Okay.
But today, most people are pretty level-headed.
Here's my interesting sort of question, right? Okay. So if you think about what we normally eat, we try to eat healthy, like good food. We're not the most like kind of foodie connoisseur people, but we like to dabble every once in a while. Mike even tried sushi one time.
Listen, I've tried many more things.
Okay, good.
I love California roll because it's not technically sushi.
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? In our culture today, there's like what we normally eat, but then there's also like gas station food.
Yeah. Like a nice hot dog or corn dog.
Or Slim Jim.
Totally.
Slim Doritos.
Yeah.
What I'm really curious about was, if you think about like in our elevated, mass-produced, overly calories accessible society today, we have like really fine cuisine, we have like healthy cuisine, we have like boutique farmers market cuisine, and we have like gas station food.
Yeah, like junk food, if you will. Yeah.
What was gas station food like thousands of years ago? Did they even have it? Was there like something like, man, because like cultural strata has always existed.
And someone's always struggling.
There's always been like the real kind of like people that whenever, one of the things I love doing when I go to Walmart to buy groceries, and actually Walmart produce section is surprisingly good.
Yeah.
I got some of the best blueberries. I got complimented on my Walmart blueberries.
Nice.
Shout out to me. But anyway,
shout out to me.
I'll look at like what I'll look at like the person in line behind me, and I'm just like curious, like, cause it's like kind of playing like Family Feud. It's like, what is like a normal person in this area of the world like buy.
And you get the full strata. You get people that it's like there's literally everything either frozen or it's a chip bag equivalent.
There's people that exist just on pre-made frozen foods where it's a lot of like TV dinners and tater tots and like Hot Pockets and no single ingredients.
Right. And that makes you think if someone was in the ancient world and they didn't even cook one meal for themselves, the way some people are that way, what are they eating?
Like motor oil?
Well, what was the hot dog back then, right? Because at the end of the day, you get your top shelf. Everyone's going to always love like a filet or a good steak or some kind of tenderloin of any animal that they're eating.
Right.
Then after that, you're going to have like still fine, good cuts of steak. Then we're going to eat some organs. And then we got all the leftovers that we're going to make into hot dogs today. We'll make into tasty sausage. And then at the end of it, it does go to byproduct.
Well, I think the difference is like food back then was a bigger percentage of people's total net worth.
But everyone ate a lot of the thing.
Right.
You ate the whole thing.
So I think because food has gotten cheaper.
Yeah.
It has... And that sounds weird because it hasn't really in the last like 10 years.
It's less of a status symbol.
Right. So I think like...
So you have people that have no reason to be eating kind of in a cheap, unhealthy way.
Yeah.
But they do out of lifestyle choices. And in the same way, today, you can very affordably eat healthy.
Yeah.
You can super affordably eat healthy.
Yeah.
Compared to
chicken,
the
rice,
average...
Chicken, rice, vegetables.
Compared to the average person that eats at Taco Bell, then they hop over to McDonald's, and then they grab some Olive Garden. Like if your average majority of meals are going out to grab something, I guarantee I can make you healthy food cheaper.
If you just do rice, green vegetables, and
chicken a lot,
you can probably cook for... Yeah, pork is cheap. It's the other white meat, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You can cook for like $3 per person per meal.
I think you could, and even stretch it to $5. That's cheaper than Jack in the Box.
And your macros would be on point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's once you get sort of pre-prepared things, or you get a lot of sauces or a bunch of things. It's crazy. Like when I throw like my dinner parties and we do the tri-tip, rice and vegetables.
And it's funny because it is a staple. It's the make-a-range meal, but every single person likes it.
Everyone has a great time. Even like fancy people. We're not fancy people, but we have
good
fancy
taste.
friends.
We try to. Oh, but I get what you're saying. But we got some friends that like I'd be like, he's fancy.
Right.
Yeah.
They're fancy.
Yeah.
Even fancy people like it. And because you're kind of keeping it minimalistic. You know what it is? Bringing it back to woodworking. It's like slab table.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone likes a good slab of walnut.
Letting the ingredients speak.
And I even say this, like, people always say, what should your first project be? I'm like, you should spend a lot on a slab and get 4 hairpin legs. All you're doing is sanding and maybe like trimming the ends. And
even if you're going to Home Depot, just spend the time and look through the lumber.
Right.
Don't just go grab a bunch of 2x4s. Like dig. The end products will be considerably better if you got straight and good grain, and you can find it.
Right.
Yeah.
But my back to the gas station food, because this is what I'm really curious about.
Yeah.
So we know now that there's like, we have friends that eat like absolute garbage.
Sure.
They have horrible eating habits.
Right.
It's a lot of like White Monster energy drink, and like Chipotle is a healthy option.
Yeah.
That spectrum between the people that kind of like stay in the straight and narrow and kind of like have it together and eat healthy versus the people that are just human raccoons. That spectrum's always existed.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's crazy to think about when there was maybe just being less options way back. Because I always think of like, do you ever read the Little House on the Prairie books?
I'm familiar with the movie. I've never seen or read the books.
They had a whole winter where all they had was like a handful of potatoes and some flour. And like, no wonder one of them went blind. Like they weren't getting any carrots or anything.
Yep.
But like they would get so excited. They would write like a whole chapter about like a time like the family got an orange to share. Because like citrus wasn't in the Dakotas.
Yeah.
And didn't make it wherever far west that they went to. But it's wild to think about that, like the same way we have like these full spectrums of like culture now, maybe because there's more population now, there's a broader spectrum, but there's always some spectrum.
Yes.
So there was like garbage people throughout history, and then there was kind of like the sophisticated elite.
Yeah.
And my big question whenever we look back on history is, are we looking at, like, we always average it, be like, at that time, the people did this. No. There was always multiple types of people doing totally different shit.
Yeah. I think where today you're going to eat like genuinely, you know, meat gets processed. Once you get down to a certain level, we're turning this into sausage. You know, we're turning this into some kind of sausage. And then below that, it's like kind of byproduct, or it might be used for something that aren't for people. But I think back in the day, that was the stew. I think the classic move for everything that wasn't something you wanted to look at and eat was like, just put it in a stew.
Right.
And there's going to be a lot of things in that stew, but you're not going to think about it too much.
I guess my point is like men of a certain age were interested in history.
Yes.
But one of the things I think that history doesn't cover well is like cultural discrepancy within a society. And I think if we were to look into future, and if
look back on us,
let's say society gets wiped out, people dig us up later, 500 years from they're looking, they're probably going to make the same mistake that we're making. Is they're going to be looking at us and be like, they're just going to average it out and be like, all people of 2026 were really into Taylor Swift, eating hamburgers, and watching like Marvel movies.
Yeah.
When really those things are very popular, but they in no way encapsulate actual culture. They like encapsulate certain popularity points within culture. So I wonder, when we look back at history, are we making that same mistake that those future people would make looking at us?
I think that's like something that should be a forethought or like a caveat to conversations people say when they're having these like ancient aliens podcasts where they're like, oh, the hidden mysteries of the past. Contextualizing it by saying like they're the same people that we are. So they're going to have real similar proclivities. Right. They're going to completely waste time and effort and resources towards things that aren't practical. And then at the same time, they're going to be like hyper skilled at certain things. And what people were hyper skilled at 100 years ago is vastly different than what people are hyper skilled at today. And so thinking that just because that's what they cared a lot about or what a lot of skill was going into, just thinking where it's like everyone cared about that. Because you've got people that are incredible engineers, like computer engineers. They can code, they can do all the things that I certainly can't do. But if you look at where humans are today, you'd be like, wow, they can code and they can control computers. I'm like, I can't do nothing about computers. They're going to get me. If they want to, they're going to get me. Yeah, all I got is guns. They got technology. And so, yeah, I think that should be like a caveat going into these conversations, because sometimes you listen to a Joe Rogan, and if you go with the flow, you really start going deep into a rabbit hole before you start kind of just take a breath of fresh air and realize where you're like, wait a minute, we're talking about the same kind of people that we are, right? And you almost lose that.
I guess, like, yeah, when I look back at history, I'm like, I kind of assume, and I don't know this, but like the smartest people then were as smart as the smartest people now. There was fewer people then than there are now, so there's more smart people now. The smartest people now have the benefit of more information to kind of like pull from and assemble. They have more material to work with than the smartest people back then.
The Library of Alexandria sucks compared to the internet, like in a contemporary way.
Right. And even now with like, we should do a Modern Maker podcast.
The conspiracy.
AI episode. Have you used it much?
Yeah, I've used it as much as anybody that's kind of in content, because you almost have to with like thumbnails here and there. Every once in a while you got a project where it's like, I'm going to make my thumbnail, but then I'm going to see what AI makes to make sure that there's not an idea that I should do, or if it can't put a little.
Have you looked at the YouTube AI thumbnail suggestions for you in your YouTube Creator Studio?
Hit it. What does it say?
There's a whole little, you have to click some things, and you get to this page, and it's like this is what we think using AI that your next project should be.
Oh, whoa. Oh, whoa.
And YouTube actually gives you AI generated thumbnails and topic ideas. They're a little unhinged.
Kind of over the top.
All right.
Yeah. Because they're not thinking of how you would actually make it.
We're going to do this right now.
Yeah,
we're going to get into our obsessions. But one of the things for the next episode that we're going to do is we're going to show you what AI thinks that our YouTube channels.
What AI thinks we should build next.
Yeah.
I love that. I want to close out the whole people back in the day. This is a good one. Because things, there's supply and demand, there's availability and novelty to all the stuff in the world that it would make you think people loved and cared about these things so much, whatever it may be. One of them that really caught my funny bone when I heard about it was pineapples. Whenever the English and Europe, let's just take it, went out and they found
pineapples were the magnets of food. And like, whoa, what is this magic?
Like, is it a fruit or what is it? But the tree is the fruit. But they were tripping out on it because it was obviously delicious. Pineapple is awesome. But
they didn't even know what to name it.
That's a good thing. Yeah, I remember watching content.
A pineapple's tropical.
Yeah.
And they named it after a tree in a snowy forest.
And it doesn't look exactly like a pine cone, but if somebody wanted to, I could see where they're going.
You're taking a few edibles.
Yeah. Or you see one that's dried out and bad. But the long story short, I got a kick out of this. Apparently, the King of England was trying so hard to get pineapples. That's where the first greenhouses got built. At least in a lot of England, that was where the idea of greenhouses propagated. Is the king wanted pineapples. I think it was one of the King Georges, and they were so fancy and so cool that unfortunately, during the voyage, a lot of pineapples would spoil, and so on purpose they would pick them so underripe. It's the greenest pineapple you could imagine, so that hopefully by the time it gets back across the ocean, it's still good. But the best pineapples would still have a week or two of shelf life. And so the importers would rent pineapples so that people could have a party and display this pineapple as a show of wealth. But it's not ripe, so why would we even cut into it? And
right.
So it's cliche or whatever the word is.
Yeah.
Don't even ask to cut into the pineapple. It's a faux pas to even ask. It's green. Why would you even cut into it?
Right.
But it's a fake rich move to rent a pineapple because buying one is too expensive.
People have always been absurd.
They would be the centerpiece of their table.
And this is why I think the pyramids are not that mysterious. It's people just sometimes go yeah, let's make a giant 3-dimensional triangle in the middle of the desert. Hey, let's take these 4 presidents that we have and carve their faces into giant rocks. Let's make this giant steel bridge that goes just up in the air.
We're gonna paint it red.
Yeah.
Right.
Eiffel Tower, dope.
Cool. Yeah. No, I think you actually have a solid point with that. And I want to hear the thoughtful conspiracy, ancient, archaeology guy where he's all right, I'm going to be
aliens.
Right. Where they're okay, let me be intellectually honest here, entertain the idea and see if they come back with something legit or do exactly what you said. They're either going to come back with a legit thoughtful point or they'll be aliens.
Aliens. I don't know if aliens came to Earth and built anything. I do know there's enough evidence that humans are weird enough and eccentric enough to build crazy that in modern times, we don't understand why they would do it. The same way it's people are going to look back at our society right now and be why did they do what they're doing? What's the Lalabos or those weird little troll doll things? You can't explain that shit.
No.
We as humans do weird shit and we invest a lot of money and we blow it up and then we get tired of it and discard it. I have no reason to believe that human tendency that we have now to do weird Lalabo shit is different than what it was to build the pyramids.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's definitely got me thinking some fun stuff around the topic. Like, I think this is like a good wrap on it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we're like the guys for this, but it's kind of like, weirdly, you hear enough of those guys talking about this kind of thing. I think us talking about it was actually like a grounding thing. Like, listen to a Joe Rogan and then listen to us. Come back to earth.
I think, you know what the challenge we should eventually do? We should do the Modern Maker Podcast Future Archaeology Challenge.
Ooh.
Where the whole challenge is who can build the weirdest thing that future archaeologists will find that makes no sense.
It'll be so confused.
And literally, it's just like literally people will invent religions that future people will think they're existing. But it would be the biggest middle finger to the future.
Yeah.
It's just to do something, seed it at such a scale that people are like, well, there's no logical explanation for why they would spend this amount of resources to do this absurd thing. Yeah. And literally it's because we thought it was funny.
Yeah, just trolling the future.
All right. That's the Future Archaeology Podcast Challenge. And I haven't heard people have this conversation. A lot of people talk about the same subject, but not in this way.
Yeah, this is actually a fresh take on it where they're like, yeah. Like I liked my thought where you're like, oh yeah, Empire State Building is just tall because it's the tallest building at the time.
Right.
Pyramids is just the tallest building at the time.
Yeah.
You could have done it for that simple reason. That's why we did it.
We do dumb shit all the time.
Yeah.
People in the past did dumb shit too.
Yeah. They probably did more. Like, not to be like they're stupid, but they probably even did it more because they're probably a little more.
Did you see the Saudi Arabia? Oh, we're going to build this building that's like 1,000 miles long.
Yeah, the wall.
The line.
Oh, the line.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they're like, just kidding. We're going to build like 2 miles. Maybe the pyramids were supposed to be like a mountain to the moon. They're like, oh, just kidding. This is all we can do.
So now we're on to our current obsession.
Okay.
I've already pulled my phone out because my obsession is Terrazzo, like I've talked about. But I found a clip that was really inspiring. I talked about that guy that had this angle grinder tool.
Yeah.
And I'm going to assume it's, maybe you could buy it. You know, maybe he fabricated it. Maybe you could buy it. But what we're watching right now is your slushy going in to the form, and now he's pulling the form out. But the coolest thing I found.
Oh, you made that heavy.
Was this right here. So it's similar to an angle grinding polishing disc, but it just took away the mechanical error. I'm rewinding to show that part right here.
Yeah. So you basically are going to like strap your angle grinder to some sort of like, almost like one of those like handheld CNC machines.
Yeah.
Like one of those slab levelers.
You could almost just take a disposable angle grinder. Take your Harbor Freight angle grinder or take your angle grinder that's like, you know, it's had a few hard days already.
You want a wet, dry one.
Yes.
You want a wet one.
And I think what you could do is, even with straps, just put a plywood board on top to where it has flat established and it's the angle grinders here. And then on 12 inches, 30 inches either side, there's a plank that references 2 rails on either side of your thing. So just like you would make a router sled, you're making an angle grinder sled.
So a couple things here as someone that's used an angle grinder on concrete and masonry quite a bit. I think this is like the big decision is whether you're going expensive angle grinder with one that can tolerate wetness.
Right.
Because that will keep dust down and everything.
Yeah.
Or whether or not you're saying, no, I'm going cheap angle grinder, but I'm going to make a lot of dust.
And in that case,
and either one works.
That's a lot of dust.
Right.
It is a lot of dust. I haven't really thought about it.
But I would say that this is a good justification for high-end waterproof angle grinder.
Maybe.
Because your eyesight, it's going to be a time-consuming task, even with you kind of operating like a handheld but guided leveler. Here's the other thing, too. I think, like, it doesn't have to be that complicated. It can just be something that, because each pass with an angle grinder is way less than like a thickness planer in wood.
Yeah.
You're only going down like a 32nd or a 16th of an inch.
And you're only be angle grinding the high points down to.
So you might just make like a simple, like out of like, you notice like the Fastenal kind of like strut tracks?
I do actually, yeah.
you could just use something like that and like connect the angle grinder to that. And then you just like shim it.
Yeah.
With like something that's a 1/16 of an inch.
It really totally could be so simple. And the way you mentioned way back at the beginning of the episode, like, hey, if you're doing a vanity with a terrazzo top, maybe experiment on just a small project, get your trial and error done, but also figure out your technique or your process. I think that's going to be the move. And I don't know if it begins with like a very rudimentary, not even using a wet angle grinder, but just trying to make a small, almost stepping stone sized piece of terrazzo. But then once I have my proof of concept, scaling up, doing it with a wet angle grinder and all that, I'm just thinking out loud. So yeah, I have no idea. But the current obsession is terrazzo. The problem to solve is how to hone it flat without just relying on kind of feel. Because I think that's the thing that once you do 10 projects, you develop that feel. But on the first project, you're going to accidentally make some divots if you don't have a guardrail in place.
Here's the good thing about angle grinders. They have that screw-in handle with multiple positions.
Whoa.
So you can thread something to an angle. It's actually...
And it's on either side so that you could put the handle on this side or that side.
All right. Let's wrap this episode. I'm going to show you some of my favorite grinding discs for cutting stone and masonry.
Let's do it.
Boom. Thanks, everybody. Bye.